with everything that's going on, we need a lot more tools. Rabbi Hertzberg, Rabbi Dr. David Hertzberg, David, told me a story once. I remember I had the privilege of giving a class in his yeshiva to the staff, and he told the story of the custodian that went upstairs to do a repair. I remembered Rabbi David. And he asked him, he had an entire box of tools. So he said, why don't you just bring, I just asked you to do one thing. He says, well, so Rabbi Hertzberg was talking about teachers bringing all the tools along. So I think parents certainly need as many tools as we can get. And that's basically the idea. Thank you for joining. And I really hope you find it helpful. It's my really pleasure and honor to introduce my dear Chava, my dear friend, Rabbi Dr. David Hertzberg. He's the principal of Yeshiva Flatbush Middle Division and assistant professor of history at Touro College in Brooklyn, New York. He received smicha from Yeshiva University in 1989, a Master of Arts degree in International Politics and Political Theory from New York University, and a Doctor of Arts degree in Modern World History from St. John's University. At Yeshiva Flatbush, Rabbi Hertzberg developed curricula focusing on an interdisciplinary approach to education, and most recently, an innovative Tanakh curriculum, which I really want to hear about from you later, Rabbi David. Okay, thank you very much for joining, Rabbi Hertzberg.
Thank you, Rabbi Horowitz, my dear friend. So I'd like maybe to begin by a few general thoughts, then we'll show you the schedule of how we've worked it out at the Yeshiva Flatbush, and then I guess we can open to the audience for some questions, and it'll be a chavrusa, because as you'll see, this is a learning process for all of us. You know, one thing I think we have to bear in mind is that none of us were prepared for this. This is not that you open up the file cabinet and you pull out the plan book, the playbook for these types of things. This is completely different, this type of distance learning for this amount of time. It's a whole new ballgame. Just as a side, one of my students on a Zoom meeting said today, Rabbi, does this mean we're never going to have a snow day again? That it's going to be closed and right away you guys are going to pull out? So I said, if it's only one snow day, I will still go on.
I can tell you, David, if I could just tell you that all the parents who are listening, who are managing their children's online at home, feel the exact same way you do. They weren't prepared for any of this.
Exactly. And I think it's very important that, you know, we're telling our teachers and as parents that it's a learning process. It's nothing to feel guilty about. Perfection is not the goal. It's doing the best that we can. And to that end, I think that as a model, we have to understand that this distance learning at home right now, it's not that it's mini school, that it's school just a little bit different at home. It's a completely different model. We're trying to do the best we can. We're trying to get as much education as we can. But the standard that we're comparing it to should not be regular school any more than a military surgeon should be compared, who has to do battlefield surgery, should be compared to a surgeon at Mount Sinai Hospital who's able to operate under pristine, sterile conditions. I think that's very important. As such, we have to pick our goals. We have to understand what skills we want to work on and how we can do the best under these conditions. I think that's important. Number two, I think every school, every yeshiva that had to close down, I don't want to use the word joke, but the idea was that we were all looking to the yeshiva that closed down 2 weeks before we did and learning from their mistakes. And, similar to what's going on right now, that we're beginning to look at other countries and states that are opening up their schools again, and we're seeing all the mistakes that they're going to be doing without any fault, and hopefully we'll learn from them what works, what doesn't work, because again, we're mamish creating the veil. And I think to that end, when we started the program, we closed down right after Purim, right after Shushan Purim, we closed down. And the original program from where it was to where it is now is almost Yom V'Layla. But part of it is the mashal I'd like to give as we adjust to this. It's not that, we made a mistake the first week and then we made a mistake the second, the third week, but it's like when you go to a doctor's office and they weigh you and they're playing around with the weight on the scale. It's not that they say, they put it a few pounds too heavy, that they made a mistake and then they go bring it back and each time is a mistake. Rather, it's trying to find this balance. And that's the same thing over. We're trying to find this balance because they're conflicting values. No two families are the same in terms of their needs. no one family is the same in terms of its needs, in terms of the same day. I saw in a sefer of Siegel, who was the Rosh Hashanah of Chaim Berlin, where he says, why do we say V'shinanta b'levanecha 2 times each day, the mitzvah of chinuch? So he says, because what works in the morning already has to be adjusted by the evening in terms of technique and things like that. And we're all experiencing that. And some of the most poignant emails we've received were from the same families, the same parents, the same person, 2 weeks ago arguing for one thing, and now mom is arguing against themselves what they argued. And there's nothing wrong with that, because we're all learning as we're going along. Well, I think we'll get to some specifics based on questions, but if I can ask Chesky Pivovitz, who's helping us here, is actually one of our wonderful, wonderful guidance counselors at Yeshiva Flatbush, to pull up our website called Kesher Flatbush to show you some of the things that we do. If we scroll down, Chesky, so first of all, when you go on this website, which was created special for distance learning, this is not our regular website. Our IT department created a special, unique distance learning website, not our normal one, just for this. Now, Baruch,
Hertzberg, I just want to, if I can ask, most of the folks who are online are parents. Any parent can take advantage of whatever's here.
I believe I believe the website is open now. We're going to show you our class schedule. You probably won't be able to get into any classes because we have a lot of security within Zoom, which everyone's been learning about because of various what they call Zoom bombs and attacks and things like that. So you won't be able to get into an actual class, but the website itself and some of the things that it offers, I believe, is open to the public.
The lessons that you have up
there. The links and things like that we're going to see.
I was looking, when we spoke last week, I was looking at some tefillah curriculum and some nuggets,
right,
and it was absolutely marvelous. I didn't know if you let me in, so anybody can come in.
If we let you in, we'll let anybody in.
Touche. Go ahead.
Rabbi Horowitz. Okay, so if we scroll down, before we get to the schedule, Chesky, if you scroll down to so first of all, we have these messages every day, events going on. We have night activities that are for the kids. We're actually having a virtual color war for our 8th grade now, which you'll see some links later on. So now we have various resources so first we have the upcoming events. So if you just take a look, today's Monday, May 4th. So these are different events that were done today for the younger kids, little kids. I actually gave a class before for faculty and parents. So we have a lot of these things going on every evening to help for the kids and teachers as well. These are various pictures of things going on during the day. If you can scroll down a little bit, Chesky, please. If you need technical support, this is key because a lot of parents were experiencing technical support. Certain devices we learned worked better than others. If you have a Chromebook, not going to do so well on Zoom. You have your iPhone will work actually better, or your Samsung, or your regular computer. Sometimes setting up your operation nearer your Wi-Fi base is going to give you a better reception. You're learning these little things as we go along. One of the issues we found, multiple devices, 4 or 5 kids, 2 parents trying to work at the same time, learning how to manage device, especially at the beginning, a lot of issues. So having this technical support was critical that parents could email to get help in the school. Scroll down, please. Further.
So, Rabbi,
it's done.
It's done.
Okay, so scroll up. Now let's go to a class.
Yeah.
There are also, if you, okay, so here is an 8th grade class. So this is tomorrow's schedule. So if you see, first of all, you have a link. The links over here of the tefillah, you will have the kids' link will follow that link, and then there's a communal davening over there. We have it by 8th grade, as you can see, by boys, girls, Sephardic, Ashkenaz. Then we have for 7th grade, 6th grade, and that's at 8:45. That time has been adjusted back and forth. Most kids don't come to it. The older the kids, the fewer, a lot of them like davening on their home, because communal davening on Zoom has its pluses, has its minuses. Then they have, you'll see the various classes that they'll have. Now, what we do is our basic day goes from 9:30 to 3:30. We follow their regular schedule, but the periods are shorter. Now, we alternate between having a Zoom session and having what we call asynchronous work, where they're in the Google Classroom, which is a platform where you can post work. Work is posted during that period. Students do it on their own. They can finish it at night. Then they have to upload it. So we alternate, and the classes, and the Zoom classes themselves are about 20 minutes. We give a half hour between attendance, but the actual session is 20 minutes, and we give them breaks because the research is showing that the kids need breaks to process, and too much screen time looking at the same thing, as opposed to video games where they're more focused, a different type of focus. Yeah. So we alternate. So we have Zoom.
That was actually the number one question that parents were asking, was like the challenge of some of the kids. The feedback I got was more with the younger kids, that they had a hard time staying. It's interesting that you said you made shorter lessons, that they had a hard time staying, and some of them actually, the kids didn't want to go back after the break.
Right. We've been very, very mocked on keeping to the 20-25 minute. Right. Even my college classes, you got to limit them that I teach, because the ability to take notes, the ability to focus and listen on the screen, it's very different than if they're watching a YouTube video, or even if they're listening to on a shear. The type of focus needed for online learning with the class, taking notes, typing their notes, whatever the case might be. So you need those breaks, and really the 20 minutes is the max.
And what would you advise parents who let's say have longer lessons? They don't have the option of changing what the school is doing. I think some of the people I spoke to are having longer lessons for the children.
Look, it's one of the interesting things that the psychologists have pointed out in school is that in a normal school setting, kids, when they need a break, they get up, they go to the bathroom, they walk around. So it's, very rarely do you have kids who are sitting so long not moving, even in a regular school session. You can check the halls of any school during the day, and you'll see, where sometimes it's happening out there. So I think it's important that if you see your child having a break, let them take that break. Let them, you'll know your own child, but if they have to walk around for a few minutes, let them walk around for a few minutes. Now, in general, I think, and this is a good segue to, I think, point Rabbi Horowitz that we should be making, is that the more information you let the school and the teacher know, the better it is. For example, we've trained all our mentors and advisors now. If we see a child hasn't been showing up to class, the Zoom gives you wonderful reports, and we have different things to be able to track the kids. Opening line of every advisor is everything okay? Because we had a case where a child hadn't been showing up for a couple of days. Both parents were in bed with coronavirus at the same time. Okay? So, of course, the seventh grader, there was no one, Rahman al-Hassan, there was no, both parents are recuperating, but there was no one parenting. They were both out of commission at the same time. A lot of situations, one parent was sick, one parent wasn't sick yet. This was a case. So that's always the opening question. But if you know that there's stuff going on, someone's sick, let the school know, let their guidance department know, let them know that, what's going on. This is not a time to hold back that information from the school. From the teacher also, if your child needs that break, let the teacher know and say, look, after 15, 18 minutes, Shlomi over here has to take a break for a few minutes. Totally, and again, because they would be doing that under normal circumstances. You might not realize they're doing it, but they're doing it. They're taking those breaks. And that was an observation that came from the guidance professionals picking that up, which was an important distinction.
No. You allow,
now, yeah.
You allow, if I may,
please.
You allow, or is it built in that the lessons are recorded automatically and the parents can go back? Let's say a kid would you recommend that parents do this at home? If the children are more restless, or they have something going on at home, if I want to go back, if I have a sixth grader in your yeshiva and that he didn't get the lesson, Are they able to go back and see today's work?
So that's really a great question, and that's because it shows the evolution of the process, because every decision that we make for a good reason has often a negative consequence. Like, for example, there's a feature on Zoom called lock, that after 5 minutes, we could lock it, nobody else can join it. And we were doing that because, again, for security purposes. What was happening? Kids genuinely in the class, their Wi-Fi got knocked out for a minute. They got out of the class and they couldn't rejoin. And we were getting a lot of feedback. So obviously we had to change that. That couldn't work. In terms of the recording. So initially we started recording everything, and teachers may be still recording as a safety measure. We're recording it, but it's not real. We're not making it, and most of the time, accessible, because what we saw, number one, was that you had some kids who were saying, I'm not going to go to class, I can always get the recording. But guess what? They weren't getting the recording anyway. So, but it convinced them that they didn't have to come to class. So it actually had a negative impact. Look, you miss a class. What do you do when you miss a regular class during the day? You try to get the notes from somebody. The teachers have, what's called, a lot of teachers have office hours, meaning they're available during their asynchronous time. When you're doing work, they'll be available for you to sign on to Zoom with a couple friends to talk, to help review the homework, to do something. Teacher guidance has different sessions where they're available. So teachers are available to help you out if you missed the lesson. Their responsiveness, Baruch Hashem, to emails is wonderful, is really picked up. So the teachers are, and you should know as parents, the teachers are working harder than they ever have, because parents might think that they're giving 20-minute lessons instead of 40-minute lessons. It's easy. It is not. You're momish recreating everything. It's teaching. If I was trained to teach in a classroom with all the new modern ideas and responsive classroom and things like that, and suddenly I'm in the ultimate frontal teaching, it's a completely different way of doing. And it takes hours to prepare a 20-minute lesson or to find good asynchronous work. So they are momish the heroes, working tremendously. And these are teachers and Rabbi every school. Every school.
I could imagine what an enormous amount of work it is. A lot of the parents, what I heard, I did some homework calling around a little bit, checking. A lot of them feel, the parents who have multiple children learning really feel like they're on skates all day, rushing between the kids and trying to get the kids quiet space. I don't know if there is a solution, if there's a creative solution, like to have multiple children working in different areas where a family doesn't have that much space. I assume the earphones, I guess, AirPods helps somewhat.
Well, right. It's interesting. When it first started, as people were trying just to find some level of routine, and I have the utmost respect, I truly do, of the parents with younger children, because one of my former students, he's in his 30s now, he was explaining to me that his 3 older kids already are more, but he's got his 3-year-old trying to learn something, and he's trying to do his job. Baruch Hashem, he said, I still have parnasa, and his wife's trying to work, and they're alternating the baby to get back and forth, trying to run. It's mind-boggling what the parents are, some of them are doing. Now, so at the early stages, we had one parent whose oldest child was a 7th grader, all in 4 or 5 younger kids and little kids. And she also was trying to figure it out. And she said to my co-principal, he's a very bright boy, she said, my oldest, my 7th grader, he locks himself in his room all day. He's smart enough not to tell me what he's doing, and I'm smart enough not to ask. In terms of that he was doing his own work, probably playing a few video games on the side, but he's a good student. Now, again, it's the idea of, finding private space where you could focus. On the other hand, public space so you can keep a better eye on what's going on. It's, the schools, when you have multiple children, we're trying to coordinate the Zoom to asynchronous time so that we're not all so that all 5 kids and 2 parents don't have to be Zooming and using the computer at the same time, also weakening the Wi-Fi signal. So we're trying to figure that out.
No, we have, there's a large body of parents whose schools are not doing online learning. They themselves do have internet at home, but some schools philosophically or are opposed to,
Right.
bringing this thing in. And some of them perhaps don't have it together that much and are doing an hour a day. Are there resources where parents can go and get an array of lessons? Is there a Khan Academy, even if it isn't all in one place? Like, what are the best places that you know of besides for, if you'd be kind enough, Chesky, if you can go back.
Can you pull up the website again, please?
Chesky, the question is, if I'm a parent from a different yeshiva and I would like my son to learn Navi, which is something, that would be interesting to them and maybe they don't get a chance to do. How do we get into the general classes? Because I saw that you had some things that even weren't from your school.
Right, there are a whole bunch of. Chesky, can you find the links where it talks about like math and everything?
Yeah.
I think you had a walk through the Smithsonian. I saw also.
Let's see lower school. They might have. I think they might have something. Give me a second. Having some Wi-Fi issues there.
I was just gonna say you need some asynchronous.
Yeah.
Always have an asynchronous backup. Okay, so here's some different things for, again, in the general studies.
And this would be, one second, it says kesherflatbush.org/lower school.
Yeah.
Right, but all you have to type in your search bar is Kesher Flatbush.
Kesher Flatbush, it'll come up.
Right, it'll come up. So again, here are different connections in terms of from math and things like that. And you have a lot of things on the general study side. You also have, let's say, virtual tours to different museums.
I went to
programs that
it was fantastic.
That are available, and there's a lot of bad stuff out there, meaning that people putting together quickly that aren't vetted so well. But there's a lot of creative and good stuff. You have to do a little borer. As we always say, borer is only us on Shabbos. The rest of the week, it's a mitzvah. You got to be borer and everything. But there is some really good things. Now,
to sift through.
Right. On the Torah study side, the interesting thing is, and for the exact reason, Rabbi Horowitz, which you said in terms of the internet usage, there is some good things. But again, you have to make that decision hashkafically where you are. A lot of it is in more the Datilu Umi world in Eretz Yisrael and other places that have they have virtual museum Tanakh tours and things like that are available. World Zionist Organization, WZO, every day puts out another series of Zoom classes that you can go to for different age levels. Rav Rimon and Sulamot have all sorts of beautiful Mishnah programs.
Thank you, Chesky.
My
Beautiful
pleasure.
Mishnah program in Sulamot. I think they're also working in conjunction with consortium. Online, things like that are available. So there's, if you go to Tzomet in Eretz Yisrael, which does a lot of science and halacha and things like that, also some wonderful, wonderful programs. There's a thing called Israel that has these different programs. I'm sure next week you're going to be seeing things for Lag BaOmer, virtual bonfire, and other programs coming out for that are available. In the Yeshiva Welt, less so, because again, there's you'll have more probably on, let's say, audio, but because of the view of the internet, so they're not going to put those things together.
What would you advise, Rabbi David, if I'm a school principal and I have a pretty thin online learning program, like where would I start learning from? Or where would if I wanted to develop a program, obviously not everything's going to be done overnight, but like who would you recommend that we go to? Is there, in other words, is there a platform that walks you through it, that gives you advice? Are there resources that you used consulting with that others can use?
So we have at school, so at Yeshiva, we actually, especially at the first stages, our IT department, we have people who are in charge of the educational component, developed all these, they call them cheat sheets for Zoom, basically for each different thing, how to do a meeting room, how to do this, how to do that. to walk you through it. I mean, I would think the best bet as a principal, just, it's the old-fashioned way of make a call. Everyone has been so helpful to one another. We're all in this together. Look, I've had talks to people in the, my school's a modern school, but I've been in consult. I won't mention the names, but with people from the yeshivish world have been calling for ideas and things like not only on the internet, but to the next level. But everyone, when we started, we called the yeshivas that were ahead of us closed down. Everyone has been so helpful to one another. So I would say whatever area you're, if you have a connection, call, everyone knows someone who knows someone, call up, talk to them now, talk to the computer department. And really everyone is willing to help one another, to give ideas, tell them. And the best part of this is normally, like when we give presentations, we all like to talk about our successes, and we all hide our failures and mistakes. In this case, there's no shame. Everyone's willing to discuss their mistakes and failures because it's a learning curve. And you'll make your mistakes. Don't have to repeat the mistakes that we did. And I would say that's the best. Reach out to me, reach out to other schools in your neighborhood. People have been very, very helpful, and that's really the best way I would say to do it.
That's really nice to hear. That's very nice to hear. I actually looked up in doing some homework for this. I went to some homeschool that they do this all the time. There's some, just whoever's tuned in or listening to the recording of this, there are some really nice resources for parents. There are millions, I think, of parents in the country, or certainly hundreds of thousands, who homeschool their kids all the time. So they have lots of resources that kind of set up much more for to work with parents directly, as opposed to professional educators. So I found that a lot of their stuff is helpful. What do you see long term, Rav David? How much of this is going to stay after this is all over?
That's a really good question. It's like the old saying, never waste a crisis. I think that we're going to go back to the regular yeshiva. Nothing replaces that human interaction. So it's not like I'm not one of these people who thinks the Ganzfeld's going to change as a result of this. With that said, I think that they're going to be certain, we've all discovered new opportunities. I think on the, even on, let's say, my student asked me, does this mean we're never having another snow day? I don't know if one snow day we're going to have school, but you know what? It's going to be that much easier to give optional shiurim that day. And I think, for parents, like parent meetings and different types of, I've never had such good attendance to my faculty meetings. We're doing them twice. Everyone's coming. No one wants to, this FOMO, fear of missing out or whatever. Everyone's showing up. Everyone's coming. But it also recognizes a certain convenience that, especially some teachers have to be home at that hour with the kids. They can go online for a few minutes. So I think there are going to be ways that we're using it smarter like that as well. I think also we've all been searching for new websites and things like that. So we found some interesting things that may be brought into it. So I think it will have an impact, and we've all become a little bit more tech savvy than we have been. But at the same time, I think I think people are longing to get back to, be in the flesh in the classrooms.
Sure. Just one or two more questions, if I may. What do you do with, do you recommend any filters, any filters for parents?
Absolutely. I
got to tell you, Rav David, back in the day when I was much more involved in Teens at Risk, and they started coming out with these first generation of filters, I had two boys that I used to call when a new filter came out. And I'd say, hey, Yitz, how do you get around this one? And they'd come up with this 2 days after it was out. So in other words, what I'm saying is, we all know that there is a certain percentage of kids, hopefully pretty small, but there's a decent percentage that are going to get around whatever you put up there.
Right.
And there are some kids who will never go. But, we're talking about, I guess, I always tell parents, I think filters are for the majority, for the middle, for the 85, 90% who can't break through a filter and, and are not, so like, what do you recommend, and how do parents get more knowledgeable about this?
So look, first of all, absolutely recommend, on the computers and phones, that the kids who have phones, filtering. Certainly, especially with the kids at younger ages, keeping computers in public places, start when they're young, that you're on top of the situation. There are various websites that parents can go to get trained in, to know what to be looking for. They'll always outsmart you, but at least you will only be several steps behind them. There are various websites that we can go as parents to. I think like there's that website Common Sense Media, which rates new games and all these things, so that you know what's going on out there. So we have our IT people tell you what filters to go on and what's best. And as you said, Rabbi Horowitz, it's the kid who is dafka trying to get around and do stuff. It's very hard to stop that kid. The best way to stop that kid is just keep it. It's like the Kutzker Rebbe said, I think, that don't tell me my Hasidim aren't sinning because they make the decision not to sin. Tell me they're not sinning because they're too busy. Those types of kids, you just got to keep them busy. Otherwise they'll find the way. But the majority of kids, they come across accidentally. They're interested, this, they're that, and it's extremely important. And check up on your children, what they're doing. Check on the websites. Help them as a project. Don't look like not cheating, not doing the project for them, but give them some ideas how to do certain searches and stay. But absolutely, the stuff out there is as Rabbi Horowitz, you breathe this day and night. The dangers out there, the predators. It's not a week goes by in our business that we don't have some. And Chesky over here doesn't have some major cyber issue going on.
Right. And what I tell parents always is that they should never ever snoop on their kids. Parents sometimes have a temptation to go on and when a parent will get in touch with me, or they email me or call me, Rabbi Horowitz, I just happened to be checking my daughter's account and I saw. I said, stop. I said, there aren't many things in life that I'm sure of, but I am 100% sure that if you sit down with your daughter and you say, I went through your phone and I saw, I guarantee you there will be no discussion about what you saw. Only discussion is going to be, why'd you look at my stuff? So I think parents should upfront tell the children that we're going to be supervising. They shouldn't get it. I really don't think parents should get into that mode with their sneaking. I think they should be honest with the children and tell them. The analogy that I give is driving a car. There's a time when you have a permit, you can't drive at nighttime, and gradually as you move on, you have more freedom.
We have a joke in school. The only test parents ever hope their kids fail is the road test.
David, it's such a pleasure. I really genuinely thank you for your time. I cannot imagine
My pleasure.
How busy you are with all that's flying around in the school, and kol hakavod to your teachers for putting the time.
They're the teachers and the parents are the real heroes.
Okay. Mamish. Very much. Thank you very, very much. Chesky, thank you for your technical help, and really, Reb David, very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Well, everyone.
Bye.
Found it helpful.
Thank you.